Buenos dias, folks. How are you? Welcome to our fourth episode of What's in Your Cart, episode 4. Did I just say 4? I'm like a Satanist with a cracked head, so it's like 444, the number of the. So what's happening is we're going to talk to Matt. And yesterday we had an interview with Tav Falco that is under 30 minutes, and it's, I think, the greatest thing ever. So you should watch it, and it's fucking awesome. And we got a full show tomorrow. Tomorrow, Jazz People. I'm going to be talking about the Miles Davis record, Sorcerer, going through the whole thing, giving you, a bit of a history, putting it in its category, and maybe giving you a couple more suggestions if you like that record. And a whole lot more. Next week, we have a best of, 2 best ofs. Friday will be the best of VMP with Matt. And Saturday will be the last show of the year, the best of the year. And that brings us to today's show, which is the venerable Matthew Hessler of...
What's up? What's up? How you doing, man?
Vinyl Me Please. I'm very well. I'm very, very well. I'm happy to see you. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, this feeling like this is the last push to get through end of year stuff. Looking forward to the holidays to kind of kick back and actually play some records instead of doing all this work to try to sell records and get them out the door.
But you don't play records when you work?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. At home, always. At the office, we've got like a couple listening spaces. I'm actually in our listening room. You see the little crazy ear thing behind me.
Very, very good poster.
But yeah, different people are in here listening to test pressings and whatever. So there's not a lot of time you can just kind of chill and listen to records while you work.
I got you.
When you're in the office. So
I listen to records all the time, Matt.
I know. I see pictures of your cave, and I want to go move in and just set up some bunk beds and listen to some records.
It's a comfortable space, man. It's a comfortable space. And, I don't know if that's the case with everyone's listening space, but it might seem a bit new agey. I don't think it is, but you create an environment for yourself, and records, the entire appeal to me of records, of vinyl, is that it forces us to sit in a time and a place, right? In a time and space. It kind of captures that, binds that together. Of course, it's not the only thing, but because of that, because I see it as a little bit more of an intimate experience when it comes to listening to music, or even the type of space that you would share with somebody, right? So in other words, if this conversation were happening in a real living room rather than a virtual living room.
Totally.
If it was happening here in the record cave, right? I always try to kind of have this idea of, you know what, man? Take the fucking bad vibes out completely. You know that idea of the minute the music turns on, you close your eyes and you let it go away?
Oh, yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Makes sense to me. I haven't had enough of those moments in the last month.
Yeah, but you need them, man.
You do. It reminds you why we sit around and talk about music. Well,
the fun part about it is that you and me genuinely have a good time when we do these things. I get chuffed every time, man. It's fun to kind of like develop the character and the bond kind of like that we have through records. And some very real things have happened, Matt. You have influenced me and my listening in a really good way.
Nice.
Do you know the record I'm talking about?
I don't. I hope it's that Julian Baker, but nope. maybe not.
No,
what else?
It's the Daniele Lupi, man.
Oh, nice.
That Daniele Lupi definitely put me on the track for wanting his other record, the Spaghetti Western thing that he did with Danger Mouse.
Yep.
And it has me absolutely wanting some Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Like Yeah Yeah Yeahs was not even on my map, but the minute I heard Karen O sing Talisa, it's like, I need that fucking song. I need more of that.
You do need that.
Yeah, so it's
that's great. I think that Milano record rules, and I think a lot of people slept on it, and I hope you start to see it in some year-end lists and some stuff where music heads, I don't know, see something different in it. I think it's got a 90s vibe. I think it's got a certainly European kind of slant to it. I think it's great.
I get more of an 80s vibe from it. Just the Talking Heads thing is really big. Even the punk rock thing, like when I'm thinking about like Karen O singing to Lisa, it seems like it's still punk rock, but it's in a it's not quite that fucking heavy, fuzzy thing that we sometimes hear. It feels like it was recorded. That's why Debbie Harry comes to mind. It feels like it was recorded during the 80s somehow.
Yeah, yeah. I get that.
Yeah? Cool.
Yeah, I'd say maybe late 80s, but I was a kid at that point, so my recollection of that time period skews to like me as whatever 12 years old.
Yeah, but that makes the conversation more fun, right? Because it's kind of like we're approaching the same things, but completely from different generations and perspectives, and it's really fun. It's such a kick to get into to have a discussion about music and get turned on to something. Like I love that shit. You know, to me that's the forever shit. And Daniele Lupi is fucking not you know, you turned me on to it because I would have never gone for that. Never.
Nice.
That would have
That's
gone
awesome.
like way over my head, right?
I mean, I think I'm just repaying the favors. The number of phone calls you and I have had and your knowledge and some obscure jazz and funk stuff, I've discovered plenty of records through you. So
Did you wind
even records that end up in our own store that I like just aren't on my radar, that Timothy McNeely, and like I was kind of like, that would be a cool funk record or whatever. And then I talked to you about it. I'm like, oh shit, I got to get that.
Yeah, man. Was like a little Texas thing, and the band I was trying to remember the last time from Texas also, dude. If you can catch it, if I'm not wrong, I might be wrong, but it may have also been released on Now Again. You'd have to check Discogs, but a band called the Kashmir Stage Band.
Crazy. I'm gonna write it down.
Oh, you want it? Kashmir with a K. Okay.
Oh.
The deal with these guys is, you know, Texas had all their high school bands and all. A guy comes in. There's a documentary of it on Netflix. But a guy comes in and decides that instead of just playing the old kind of standard marching band thing, he's going to introduce R&B and soul and funk into the picture. Right?
Nice.
A lot of black kids all of a sudden in a pretty bad area decide to get into their instruments and they have a reason to go to school. And they're so fucking in love with what they're doing that they're practicing all the time. Their grades are better because they feel like they belong to something. They do so well. They start winning awards everywhere. And what they're doing is, I mean, you have to hear these kids, man. Kashmir Stage Band. You have to hear these kids. They're rocking the funk like you've never fucking seen, right? Like they're really, cool. They're slaying. This is not like an oddity or an outsider thing to say they're good for a high school band. No, dude, they're good, right?
I love that.
Well, Timothy McNeely comes in that entire family. He's part of that whole thing. So, yeah, man, kudos to you guys for having put that in the store. You kind of got me the other piece of the puzzle. Are you liking it?
And yeah, I love it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he just passed away in the last 2 weeks. Like, since we last talked, which is crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think Vinyl Me Please at large got turned on to Timothy through Egon and Now Again. And yeah, we were proud. You know, we've been working on that special edition for 3 or 4 months, and timing wise, I mean, it's morbid that he just passed, but I'm really glad we're celebrating his music. It's super fun stuff.
Oh yeah, that's happened on a couple of occasions with a couple of bands. We're seeing a lot of reissues, and I love the fact that labels like Now Again are plumbing catalogs as deeply as they are. Org is doing the same thing with going into really deep catalog and kind of just reintroducing this music. It's necessary, man. I can't imagine life without this music or without what we do.
Yeah, I always find it's an interesting, it's real weird ground. Probably not a discussion we should be having in this channel, but if people have opinions, I'd frankly love to hear them. You know, like nobody wants to capitalize on somebody's death, but I think as vinyl collectors of Vinyl Me Please and other places in the industry, when somebody passes away, it does just bring your attention to like, oh shit, I do need all this Leonard Cohen, or whoever. We've lost some great artists in the
Sure.
last 5 years, and I think there's just that fine line of saying like, nobody's like, you don't want to profiteer off it, but also that's a time when collectors are like, it really drives home the fact that you need to fill in some gaps in your catalog and have some of this stuff. So, we try to provide that, and in cases when we've already had a project in the works, if we can do a special edition thing, we think of it very much as a tribute. But
I
it's
don't even
interesting. I think,
understand. Honestly, I don't even understand why it is that you feel like you need to explain that. To me, it's a pretty clear thing. Okay.
yeah, I don't know. Sometimes we see people comment, people have this like, oh,
And what do
and
you
I
do?
think
Just because there's a million people commenting, you actually listen to these fucking people? Dude,
we
sometimes
try,
you gotta
man.
have two fucking signals sometimes. That's it.
Yeah. No,
K-
I believe that, but we see ourselves in service of the vinyl community, and want to feel like we're doing the right thing. So
well, look, uh, you know, when a musician, when something happens, what happens when a funeral, like, I mean, if somebody dies in your life, we celebrate their life. It's not all of a sudden because, sure, there are two sides to the mirror. You know what I mean? It's kind of like it's always the
sure,
social media argument as well. People who see it as bad don't like what they see in the mirror because it's a reflection of you. Okay, so if you see this type of a thing as an opportunity, then you're an opportunist, right?
sure,
But it's not the music or it's not the art in and of itself that makes it a bad thing. It's what people do with the art. The example that I always give is, if when you see a Picasso, the first thing that comes to mind is a dollar amount. You're
mm-hmm,
not fucking looking at art right. You're just not. We're not
right,
talking about the same thing. So for me, I hear that, dude, fuck those people. Fuck those people. Fuck them. You understand? Good, you put on Timothy McNeely. You know what I'm doing? I'm getting it mixed up between who's that comedian on Saturday Night Live?
oh
Tim Meadows.
no, what was his name?
I'm getting it
I don't
mixed
know.
up with some kind of
Yeah, yeah,
Saturday Night Live thing. Kevin Nealon, Tim McNeil. I don't know what the fuck I'm
yeah.
doing, but yeah, man. If anything, you pour one out. He's great, and I'm really happy that you guys put him out. Kudos.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I am too, and that you and I certainly share the same like ethos around that stuff. I always just think it's an interesting conversation. I think it's a lot of like elitists who like, oh, fuck you, you're talking about Prince. Like I've been into Prince from the get go, and it's like, okay, yeah, we get it. You're the biggest Prince fan, but whatever. We're all celebrating this because it's a passing or an anniversary or whatever it is. Like you want to like wave your flag that you're the biggest fan. I get it, but
You
yeah,
know
we try
what?
to do that stuff with respect and always as a celebration.
I think that the best look, the only critic that matters is your own fucking ears, man. As far as I'm concerned, no, man. I don't understand this entire thing of music being some kind of a battleground, and we see it everywhere. We see it in the metal community, and we see it in the. It's like I remember this is one of the most ridiculous things, but it speaks so directly to what you were saying. This was kind of like height of douchebaggery during the late '80s metal period. I used to have
Okay,
a friend, and he showed up, and like he'd be he was a fucking geek just like me, but he tried to toughen himself up, so he'd put on the fucking little stud belts and all, and we'd all try to kind of like be tougher than we really were by hiding behind this flag of metal. So this guy
sure.
decided, there was a record store in Montreal called Rock on Stock, right? And they used to, a large part of what they did was bootleg vinyl, and it would cost a fortune, but they had a
Ah,
whole huge section of it. So his claim to fame, and what I'll always remember him for, is the fact that he used to go around bragging that he was the biggest Metallica fan in all of Montreal because he spent $100 on a bootleg.
yeah, it's a weird way to define your fandom, man. That is bizarre to me.
Look, man, you know what? Um, I've dealt so many times. Another example that comes, I've dealt so many times with people that somehow they judge art. They view art, they take art, and I don't know, it's like a flag or something like that, rather than, it's like they got to prove something with it. And
Yeah.
I don't understand this. If it moves you, what do you care whether 5 million people know it or 5 people, or you're the only one? You're the one who shares this.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I don't care about it.
Yeah. It happens on both sides too. I think it's interesting when people like love a band when they're small, but they only love them because they're small. Once they blow up, they're like, too mainstream or whatever. Like, I agree with what you're saying. Just, you should love what you love. Let it be part of,
But
your fandom. It's personal. It doesn't, like,
I
who gives a
think
shit what everybody else thinks.
I do think though that something does need to be said about the fact that it seems, I mean, I'm making a generalization for sure, but it would seem like the older you get, the more your perspective of music changes. So you listen to artists as they age. There's an evolution. There's a natural evolution as your brain changes, as your concept of art changes. And some of them don't get it, and some of them wind up making that change flawlessly. So you look at an artist, for example, like Tom Waits, who really started off as kind of like this piano playing troubadour that they were comparing to Bruce Springsteen. So early on in the career, it's like which songwriter, it's like Springsteen versus Waits. And then obviously you see how they, ventured into completely different directions. Okay. And then you think of other artists that, they think that the way to do this is to just try to sound current. And, they're kind of just trying to follow a formula or trying to follow a trend rather than staying true to, that thing inside that makes you want to create art, right? So all of a sudden, what motivates you to do this? Is what motivates you to do it because you're feeling something with this music, or is it because you're out there trying to create a product? Am I rambling too much, dude?
No. I find that whole thing fascinating too, like people's career arcs, and like, how do you give an artist enough space, even as a fan? Like, hey, I love your band. How do you give them enough latitude to, like, you respect the fact they need to evolve, but there's something that drew you to them at the beginning, and at the end of the day, like, shouldn't be driven by the fans anyway. The artist has to make their own art. But I think it's interesting, like, people, totally check out on a band because they're like, it got too weird. And it's like, well, that's their art. That's,
Can I
like,
give you an example?
Road they're on. Yeah.
Okay. To me, the example that you and I have actually spoken about once, but the Mastodon example is perfect. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I love early Mastodon. I really do. And I've seen him a bunch of times, and legitimately speaking, Crack the Sky knocked me on my ass. Okay. I played it too much.
Okay.
They got bigger, the budgets were there, and I didn't care so much about the fans, but the sound changed. The Hunter changed a little bit, and then it started getting it just started taking on an aesthetic that I wasn't vibing with anymore. Okay? It's not because they got big. I don't give a fuck about whether they got big. I'm dying to see Cher. There's nobody bigger than Cher, right?
Sure.
So it's not a question of big. It's a question of the art changes, and at some point you jump off because it fails to communicate with you. Okay? And it brings, again, the age-old argument with any of these bands. Metallica. All these fucking assholes. Jesus Christ. When does Metallica start sucking? Which album do they start sucking? And the more elitist you get, then you have, like, the biggest fan of all. They started sucking right after, like, Dave Mustaine left the band, right?
Right.
Okay. Giving it to you, and do you think Pearl Jam belongs in that category?
There's arguments to be made there.
Yeah, but I'm asking for your opinion. You have opinions, don't you?
Yeah, I sure do. I mean, I don't know. For me, what do you go? You go Pearl Jam 10 and then Versus, and then what? I'm trying to remember the whole discography, but I think I probably check out pretty hard after Versus.
Versus, that was the second one, right? Vitalogy was the third one, then Vinyl.
There was some gold on Vitalogy. I don't know. Fuck.
I think I think I realized, and this kind of leads right into our top, into our category. Dude,
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? That's what it's so much fucking fun talking to you, dude. 20 minutes in, we haven't even gotten into the show yet.
I know, I know.
So check it. What's in your cart? $100, right? You guys click on that link. Tell us what your picks would be. Comment with them. Tell us what you think. Um,
And I
it,
absolutely love the comments. I mean, I don't know if
yeah, of
anybody
course.
cares what I like, but dude, it cracks me up and
I love
is
it.
fascinating at the same time to see what people pick and like, uh, win or not. I think it's a
Listen,
very interesting thing. Yeah,
the thing is let's be clear. The fact that we're doing, the fact that we're promoting something isn't a bad thing. It isn't a bad thing at all. What it is that we're doing is we're talking about the music that we love. To me, the comments show that. The fact that we can share this, our goal here is to try to have a conversation that we can communicate as closely as possible. You and I talk on camera. We see each other. They do not. But the way it is that they can communicate is I do want to know about them. Are you one of those guys, for example, I know that when I was dating, one thing that I would always do is, look, I'll justify it and still think I'm kind of right, but I judge people by what they have in their record collection and books and on their bookshelves.
that doesn't surprise me at all.
And when I say that, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's more like in a good way. In other words, if you start having certain things in your collection that really catches my eye, then yeah, that tells me something about you immediately, right? So if you have some, whatever, if you've got some Bukowski in your collection and I see a nice thick stack of Bukowski books, I know you're all right. I know you're all right. I already know something about your personality. I know something about the type of humor that you enjoy. Music is the same thing. No?
Yeah.
Why, Matt, why did I say this?
Talk about how music defines you and what you're about to pick out of this Vinyl Me Please store, I imagine.
You're supposed to keep me on track, You're you're the co-pilot. You're disappointing me here.
Whatever.
Go, dude. Go. Whatevs. Whatevs.
I like your rambles, man. I got the little counter. I was like, we can go to a half hour of just shooting the shit.
I like that. It's
you
my
want
favorite
me to
part.
go?
You know what? Why don't you go?
How many records did you squeeze into your $100 budget?
1, 2, 3. I'm sure 4. Hold on. 4. Yeah, 4. I got to squeeze in 4, and I got in at $95, so I left $5 on the table.
See, I was a shrewd shopper, and I wanted to maximize my budget, so I got 5. So maybe I should go first.
Yeah, but no one. Can I tell you something? Now we got a few of these. No one's gonna beat Ben Blackwell, third man. 7 picks under $100 he managed.
He got all those 7 inches, which is a good price value move. Ben was a smart shopper for sure.
Well, the fun thing is, I love these conversations because they do get me digging in places I wouldn't, right? You guys have a record by Shamir in there. And it's because Ben mentioned it that now I want to know what this Shamir is about. I necessarily want to know. It wouldn't have entered the conversation unless we were talking about records, So record nerdery counts, man.
It does. It does.
So go first.
There's so much gold in here. I was surprised though. I love the fact that when we were talking about like all of what was going to be in the store, you said this is your favorite Vinyl Me Please store that you've ever seen, which
can I ask you a question?
Blew my mind. Yeah.
One of your picks is Pearl Jam 10, right?
It is.
Is that the one you were going to start with?
It's not, but I will. It was a little bit on value. So I love this record. I remember I was probably Pearl Jam 10 I think is 1991.
I'll let you talk. You and me were going to have words. What were you saying there, Matt?
In 1991, I can remember getting a ride with a kid who was a junior in high school and had a crappy 90s Fox body Mustang. It was fast as hell, but also ugly as hell. And I can remember stuffing myself in the backseat of that car to skip school to go get Pearl Jam 10 on CD.
Oh, yeah.
There's a...
Like when it came out, how did you know about it?
It was from some older friends. People were Um, that's a good question because it's upstate New York. So I mean, I was pretty far away from any of that early grunge scene.
Okay.
But it was this kid who gave us a ride and took us to this place called the Record Archive in Rochester. Still an awesome record store. We Nobody was buying vinyl. It was all CDs for sure among like my friend group.
Okay.
But yeah, it was this older kid, and he was all about this record, and we were like, okay, we just wanted an excuse to skip school. I'm not saying this because I was like super early on the Pearl Jam program. I wanted to get out of school and go buy music. And he was going because he wanted Pearl Jam 10, and I bought it because that was the point of this trip, and ended up like it was definitely a record that I played through all my high school, and I have definitely nostalgic love for it. I don't know if where I would put it in the whole Pearl Jam anthology, but to me, it's got a special place. So it was definitely on my list.
Well, look, it fell off my list, and as you're telling me all this, I got a lot of chills because I definitely remember that period very well, and it didn't make my list, but I wanted it to because I remember having one of those fucking almost out of body experiences when I watched them perform a couple of times. Once was at this little hockey arena in a suburb of Montreal called Verdun, the Verdun Auditorium, and they played, and you can fit a couple of thousand people in there. And I wasn't much of a pot smoker or anything. I used to drink beer a lot. And my friend rolled up something, a salad, right? A little bit of hash, a little bit of marijuana.
Sure.
Never had the mix. And the music felt completely out of body, to the point where black,
Ooh,
right?
yeah,
And I mean, this happened during my 20s, so I was in a dark place. And Black is one of those songs that I kept playing and playing and playing and playing because it felt like death. And it made me feel what death was without dying, you know. And I wanted to die, but I didn't.
yeah.
And it's only as you started talking about all of that all this shit started kind of like rushing back. Wow, look at us, therapy session. Sorry, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. That record was darker for you than it was for me. I remember it as, I don't know, kind of like the, like youthful, anybody could sing along to it. Eddie Vedder's like got like his like voice thing that he does, but it's like a bunch of goofs like riding around in cars when you first got your driver's license with the windows down, singing as loud and unharmoniously as possible. So
that was
it was
Alice in
not.
Chains and Soundgarden for me. And
Nice, yeah,
and as much as it's a bad joke, definitely the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I was one of the Red Hot Chili Pepper guys. I loved that band, still do, you know. But yeah, dude, it's just Pearl Jam was one of those bands that hurt. Alice in Chains was one of those bands that just fucking hurt, man.
Yeah.
Some early Nine Inch Nails stuff too, like on Pretty Hate Machine. So I'm right with you on that pick, man.
Very cool. Well, what was your first pick on your side?
You know, should I go with my big one? My big one's pretty. It was a no-brainer. No matter what you would have had in the store, I would have done whatever I needed to do in order to have it. And I can't believe that you guys put it out on the store. I never ever. It came out of left field, but Umiliani Grazie, double LP. I would love to thank the marvelous person there at Vinyl Me Please that had the foresight to pick this fucking fabulous composer. I am overjoyed to get this, and I'll tell you why. I have been collecting Umiliani, and I've been collecting soundtracks, specifically Italian soundtracks. I'm 47 now, so we're going on 30 years. Okay.
Wow.
My big guy is Morricone. I've got over 125 Morricone soundtracks.
You are a maniac. That's
Okay.
crazy.
But right under that is fucking Umiliani. And Umiliani, for me, is number one in one area. In terms of music, in terms of organ, electronic music, early electronic music, that guy's top of the heap. He's fucking legendary. So whenever you think of those amazing 70s kind of exploitation films, dude, Umiliani did a lot of those. Okay. The very classic example, which I was telling you last time, was anybody who's a little bit older and used to watch Benny Hill or The Muppet Show knows Mana Mana, right? Mana
Yep.
Mana. Do, 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 do. Mana,
Don't
mana.
start
Do,
singing
do,
it.
do, do.
Everyone
Mana,
in the
mana.
world will have it
Do,
stuck in their head if you keep doing this.
Right.
Don't do it.
Because
the
it's the
minute
best
you start
thing.
ripping that, it's like it just plants a seed in your brain.
Right.
It's the best, worst thing.
But the thing is that song originally, it wound up on The Muppet Show, but that song was originally on a soundtrack to a 1968, I believe, maybe 67, Swedish softcore porn movie called Svezia, Inferno e Paradiso in Italian, okay, which means
amazing.
Sweden, Inferno, and Paradise. So it was the song to a softcore porn that eventually became a parody with Benny Hill and the Muppet Show.
How did the Muppets music supervisor miss that tie-in?
It doesn't matter, dude. The thing is that back then the Muppet Show was way ahead of its time. Okay, and they gravitate. There were some kids shows, if we want to even call them kids shows. Their understanding of music was above and beyond, and I can think of a whole list of them, and I will talk about one of them when I do my review of Miles Davis tomorrow. Okay, but you think of Sesame Street. Dude, you know how many people have appeared on Sesame Street? Go check out Stevie Wonder's appearance. That shit's fly, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Do you know, were you a Sesame Street kid?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you remember the pinball song? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's the Pointer Sisters, dude.
Oh, no shit.
No shit. No shit. And if you look at the Electric Company stuff, there's all of that. I'm going to tell a story that connects to children's television, that's connected to the album that you guys just put out this month, the Miles Davis Sorcerer. But I'll save that for tomorrow's show. But there's a kids show reference there as well. Okay. Anyway, all this is to say that Umiliani is the mind behind Mana Mana. He soundtracked a whole lot of really pretty crazily orchestrated psychedelic porno music, lounge music. Some of it is just straight classical. The older you get, like if you really start getting into like the early 60s, because he's been a soundtrack guy since forever. The early 60s is a lot more classical, but as you start moving into the mid 60s onwards, oh man, it gets weird. And it's the best kind of weird ever. As a matter of
fact, as I understand it, right, it's 2 LP and it's like
a compilation.
It's kind of a compilation of a career spanning stuff. Like you get some of all of it.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be fucking amazing. I don't know the track listing. I don't need to know the track listing. I have never heard an Umiliani album I don't love. I've never heard an Umiliani composition that didn't fucking make me blow my mind, man. You understand? I can't wait to get this record and just drop the needle and discover what you do. Because one of my big, like legit, one of my big grail records, and it's not because it's rare, but because I really need this record in my collection, is an Umiliani record called Today's Sound. And there's like really this fucked up cover, like this cartoony cover, and it's just this out of this world space age kind of synth music. And there will definitely, I would bet my bottom dollar, if it's a retrospective, on those 4 sides, there will definitely be some of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, so I never know how much to like PSA these times when we sit down and talk. So the Vinyl Me Please store technically opens Monday, which is the 18th, but we put the Umiliani in the store today, so people can buy it today because we dropped like a big content piece on how the whole project came together. So
is it numbered?
You can read about it. It is numbered. Yep.
How many copies?
I think 1,000. Okay. Probably a thing I should know.
Yeah, well.
Let me see.
That's to me, guys. Like, if you like soundtracks, if you like funky music, if you like that kind of like porn boom chicka wow wow thing with a whole lot of loopy electronics, that record right there, fucking that record, that Piero Umiliani record, or your money back. That's how sure I am.
Whoa.
Or your money back. Send the bill to fucking Hessler.
What?
Yeah, so
it's 2 LP on clear vinyl. It's numbered, limited to 600, and it comes with a bonus CD for whoever wants bonus CDs.
You better put one of those aside for me, boy. That's fucking awesome. All right, now you're gonna give me that, eh?
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, that's very much. There's two hugely enthusiastic records, and that was probably the one that sent me over the top. The second one is the box set, but let's go through the $100 first. What's your next pick?
Totally. So my next pick is a Pastor TL Barrett exclusive that we're doing in partnership with the Numero Group. So
fantastic
this is
label.
like, it's super funky. It's like hymnal music. Most of it is backed with like a youth choir. This might be a divisive fact about it, but like the TL Barrett stuff was sampled pretty heavily in Kanye's last record. So you know how he got like very like wanted to do a gospel preacher kind of record. So you'll recognize a bunch of samples from that record come out of like the TL Barrett anthology. This one's called something about a ship to sail, ship will sail. Wasn't sampled as heavily. It is great front to back. Really cool pressing and just something very different. It does get, I mean, it's a straight up religious, like Southern Baptist record. So
beautiful.
If the religious stuff bugs you, steer clear. But if you're kind of into it and you like that, like you bring in all that falsetto, and you know he's got a deep voice, but this youth choir like gives it like a really cool vibe. Definitely a record you could put on Sunday morning. Feel like you've gone to church as you're making coffee.
Any funk digger digs on gospel necessarily, because you're going to find a lot of gold there. Let me ask you, this record here, what's the name of the artist? TL
Barrett.
Barrett. Okay.
BREEE.
Is this one of those special edition records?
It is.
Okay, so it's numbered. It's numbered, right?
Yep. Vinyl Me Please did this as an exclusive with Numero.
And how many copies?
I'll get you the count here.
I'm just trying to get my facts straight here, Matt.
Yeah.
You understand?
You and me both. I should probably know this stuff prior to coming on and trying to represent Vinyl Me Please.
So what it is that I'm trying to say to you is, you want to sell this record, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You would like for this record to appear in the hands of other people.
I think people would like it.
Okay.
That's why I want it to appear in.
Can I ask you a question? I'll try to keep the question simple.
Okay.
Okay. When you're buying a record, if you see the picture of that record,
mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden you go to the record store and you start flipping and you see that same picture again, do you think that seeing that picture and hearing a conversation about that record ahead of time will motivate you as a consumer to go buy that record more?
Yes.
Of course, right?
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
It's fucking basic.
Yeah.
Dude, they're still looking at Umiliani, and I don't even remember the guy's name. Barnum and Bailey, what's his name? How are you going to sell records like this? You know what I think? 2018, you guys, you might want to look into getting a marketing director or something, because...
Oh, okay. I see where you're going.
You understand? Some balls are slipping over there. There's something missing.
Yeah. Somebody should keep this, bail some water out of this ship. I tell you.
It's starting to take on water, the fucking ship. You follow what I'm saying? I'm not trying to throw you under the fucking ship. I'm handing you a bucket over here.
It feels like you're driving the boat. Right,
right into the iceberg.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The TL Barrett is limited to 1,000. They're numbered. It's black vinyl with white splatter for anybody who cares about how it looks. And I think it's a decent deal. Like we worked on it with Numero, and they, it's a very old licensing deal. So I think it's like $19. So it's a great deal, and it's like an awesome,
Any
weird,
digger,
obscure record.
any
Yeah.
digger knows Numero. And Numero is one of those labels where the curation is such that it's so well done. They segment it so well that you know what you're buying. Okay. They don't let garbage through. So for me, the minute you said Numero, just to kind of give you an idea, I'm not a Grammy guy at all, but I do read all the music news. So obviously the Grammy nominations come up. And if you look at the box set category, there's 2 Numero box sets in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the Bobo Ye Ye that you used to have in your store, okay, which I have.
Yep.
Okay, that one's up, and I can see it. I mean, if you see the picture book, it's fucking brilliant. And they have another one on, I think, some kind of like acid comp, which I don't have, and I really wish I did. But just to tell you the level of what they do is,
Always great.
yeah, good pick, man.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a good record.
I don't know it, but I can see why you picked. You see, I didn't know what record it was. I wouldn't have known that because it didn't say Numero Group. For me, if you guys would have said Numero Group, I would have jumped on it immediately. It's Numero Group does it right, man. Okay,
Yeah.
so if we go on to labels, I guess my next pick would be Stax Country. Why would I pick Stax Country? I didn't even bother looking at the song titles. It doesn't matter. It becomes another thing. Some labels precede everything. You say Stax, you know what you're getting. Okay. Back then, it's hard soul. Okay. So we had Motown on one side. I mean, obviously, you got a lot of the, smaller bands and a lot of the smaller labels. But when you're looking at the bigger labels, you had the Motown, right? That, they would kind of like make sure their manners were good and just kind of go to finishing school and really just a slick presentation. Within that driving soul. So you had that Motown thing, and then you had Stax, and Stax was kind of like its dirty little cousin. Okay?
Right.
Which isn't to say that it wasn't popular. Sure, it was popular. Okay. Isaac Hayes and fucking, what's his name? T-Bone Walker, is it? Roadrunner. Otis Redding, and so on and so forth. Carla Thomas, Rufus Thomas. There's a whole lot of them. But that stuff it was always rawer. That stuff was always, I mean, quote unquote blacker. It wasn't looking to kind of just try to pierce through everything. And as a result, a lot of that stuff, the charts were a lot more R&B heavy charting stuff than it was, top 40 or top 100s charting stuff like Motown. All this is to say that when I see Stax, to me, Stax is the heavy metal, is one of the labels that I can kind of say the heavy metal are kind of like the ugly or older brother of R&B. It's not doo-wop. It's not
what's on this record that makes this record?
It doesn't matter
just because it's Stax.
It's Stax, and when I think Stax, I can't think of any country music at all. Yeah. And that's enough. So for me, what it means is that the compilation is one of those compilations that digs very deep into the catalog and maybe might go for nuggets that you won't see anywhere else. I don't have those nuggets, and I'm keenly interested in country music.
Yeah, I was just interested if you were gonna expose that there was some stuff on there that you knew.
Idea.
Because yeah, that's fascinating.
Actually, if anything, the entire appeal of this record for me is the fact that I don't know. The only two things I know, it's kind of like, when you go to a record store and you make those blind picks, this would be a blind pick for me. It's country, it's Stax. That's it. It's going to be good. It's going to be good, necessarily. So the way it is that I'm going to do it most probably is, because I'm ritualistic, and it's kind of, records are ritualistic and we're all kind of crazy. But what I'll probably do is when I take that record out, I'm just going to slit the whole thing open and just put it on deck and let the needle drop, and I'm not even going to look at the song listing and just be surprised.
Nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of country, it was one that dropped just off my list, the new Chris Stapleton record. If you want some exposure to some modern country that I think is really being done very, very well, I love the new Chris Stapleton. I had to wrestle with that versus my nostalgia for Pearl Jam, but that one was a near miss for me.
It's called Songs from a Room?
Yep. And this is like volume 2.
Yeah, volume 2. And
2 parts that he put out this year.
Volume 1 is up for a Grammy as well, man.
Yeah, it's excellent. Excellent.
It's been on my radar, but I mean, you can't get everything, right? You can't. Sure. It's just so. It's been on my radar, definitely. I'm enjoying the country renaissance. I
Me
think a
too.
lot of the guys, it's just I think that whole slick thing that took over country for a long time uh, has mostly seemed to be done away with and called pop now. And a lot of the guys are kind of like embracing the spirit of that old country, either whether it be even the cowboy song or the outlaw ethic. And
Hmm.
Chris Stapleton, to me, again, just like without having heard it, looking at the thing, that's what attracted me to it in the first place. Is that the sound he has?
Yeah, I'd say it's a little more. Probably goes more on the outlaw side, but
Okay.
um, and outside of some classic stuff, Willie Nelson, whatever. Like my country knowledge is not terribly deep, so this Renaissance might as well be like a first time thing. I had all that punk rock hardcore bravado where growing up was generally just a fuck country kind of statement out of me. So I'm hearing a lot of this for the first time and really digging it. I mean, it's got plenty of rock and roll in it. It's got interesting, albeit like very literal vocals and song arrangement. It's
Doesn't that
cool.
doesn't that kind of bring it back to the conversation we started with, which is to say that some people use music as an identity, as some kind of cloak that has nothing to do with the music. And the reason I say that isn't because, look, same with me, man. I thought I knew everything, and it's like fuck country
Sure.
or disco sucks. I go back that far, and it's like what an enormous amount of nonsense. And like when I look at that now, it's like why would I limit myself that way? Firstly, and number two, who the fuck am I proving this to? You know?
Yeah. But when you're a kid, God, you don't know. You just want that identity and like the identity is, cuts like a knife on both sides. It's
Yeah, but
it's
dude,
who you are, but it's also who you're not. And you definitely wanted to say like I'm not country or I'm not disco.
but that bullshit manifests itself even when you get older. Okay, can I tell
Yeah,
you what the old argument is? The old man argument is
sure.
new music sucks. It's
Uh
not good. Music stopped being good after I stopped giving a shit about it. And that's
yeah.
the age old argument. So
It is just goddamn lazy.
the same
That there's
the same
no
fucking
other yeah.
the same dipshits that used to kind of like try to wear that cloak are wearing it in a different. Am I not keeping your interest? You have to
There was
the
a
janitor,
random
you have to go
person there's a
Consuela.
ra- there's a random person at the door. He's got long hair. Looks like he
Michelle.
might be trying to score weed, or maybe he's got an appointment here. So I don't really know.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So what you're saying is that you guys are like a very upscale building there.
we are. I mean,
Aw-
Denver's a hippie place these days, man.
awesome, dude. So yeah, Stax Country. I guess that would bring you to use. Do it, Matt.
Yeah, let's go a different direction. New artist.
Okay.
Kind of up and coming. A guy named Toulouse, and we did this as part of like our VMP Rising program. So we try to work with artists like
I did you a
prior to
solid.
prior to getting signed or whatever. Um, and it's a way for us to bring a little exposure to the artists. We produce some vinyl for them that they can use as tour merch. It's a
Oh,
really
nice.
fun way to for us to like kind of sharpen our I don't know kind of A&R ears and be on the lookout for like what's like new like before they even get signed to their baby label deals. And we've been talking to Toulouse for a long time. He's a really interesting Nigerian-born artist,
Okay.
R&B, but like super musical. He writes all the musical composition for these records. He's multi-instrumentalist. He does. I don't think he records all the instrumentation, but where a lot of modern R&B's gone really heavy on the digital and beat making
Okay.
culture, he instruments all this stuff. Music's shown up in that Netflix show Black Mirror, a few different like soundtrack things. So he's gotten the notice of some music supervisors because it's
Okay.
really moody kind of stuff. And this is an early EP, although I think it's 8 songs, so it takes up a full kind of LP pressing. Um, and it's awesome. I'm really like
Where'd you say
I've been
from? From Ghana?
Nigeria. It's Nigerian.
That sounds
Yep.
interesting, man.
Toulouse. Yeah, and I mean it doesn't have a super ethnic sound, but um, I think you hear it more in the instrumentation than like his like vocals. But yeah, if you like, you know, kind of, I don't know, I think of it a little bit as bedroom music. I could see a few of these tracks showing up on like a makeout mixtape for me. Um,
I love that
it
shit.
Yeah, it's
Maxwell,
good.
man, all day.
Yeah, it's real vibey with that. So worth checking out, and
It's got that
it's a
sensual funk happening.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Well, dude, come on, man.
you got
Uh,
to have like a whole bit of your collection for that business.
yeah, I got a large part of my collection for that business. I always go by a certain. I break music down into three basic categories.
Okay.
Um, there's music that engages you up here.
Hmm.
There's music that connects with you here, and there's music that grabs you down here. And there are mixtures of all of that. So it's kind of like
Sure.
you take the three basic colors, red, blue, and yellow, and you make everything else with it. For me, it's kind of like in terms of emotion. I know that, like, as I've put my music collection, a lot of my choices go by that. It's like, what am I feeling right now? Am I feeling more headspace type of thing where I want to
Right.
deconstruct something? So I'll put on something like I don't know, the Kronos Quartet or a classical piece. Is it something where I just want to fucking get down and funky? Then you put on like some Isaac Hayes, or you put on, some fucking Sly Stone or whatever. And
Yeah.
it sounds like that's what you're describing here, within that kind of like funk soul
Yeah.
genre. So it
Yeah.
gets you in the
It's
hips.
a little slower, little moodier. It's not the kind of funk that's got you like tapping your toes and moving those hips fast.
So
It's
then it's a
like
combination of heart and groin.
yeah, it's a little simmer.
Okay,
Yeah.
so would you say, if you had to split combination, how much groin and how much heart?
You're gonna pull out
Dude,
like a mannequin and
charts,
like where are
charts
you?
and graphs.
It's somewhere
Whose
right
baby is
around your
that?
it's
I'll
somewhere
buy
right
that.
around
What's your
some,
angle? What?
somewhere right around your navel. It's right between the heart and the groin.
Okay, so you're basic like fucking a semi territory.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
semi. Okay, fair enough. Can you wear jogging pants or you can't wear jogging pants?
Uh I don't think you should, man. I don't think you should wear those jogging
Yeah,
pants.
man, you wear jogging pants on the fucking bus, it's deadly. Well, it used to be deadly. Now I'm old and useless.
Yeah.
Whose pick is it?
It's yours, you maniac.
Awesome. All right, what's my next pick? I don't have anything at all to say about my next pick, but I'm picking it because it looks cool, and it probably
All right.
is. Sons of the Ghetto. Sons of Truth, Message from the Ghetto. Pretty simple. It comes from the 70s. I believe that the label, oh yes, it's being reissued by Stax. I think it originally came out in 73. It's on Stax, like I said, and it's combination gospel and funk, like you were saying before. And it's pretty simple. Stax is just one of those labels where I've never heard this record. It looks amazing, and it's one of those records that if I saw in I see shopping the store, I see shopping the VMP shop as a virtual bin. You understand? So if this pops up in my bin, it's just one of those weird it's not weird, it's just one of those things that falls right in my wheelhouse, right? So
Sure.
the minute you start giving me 70s funk, my sweet spot in terms of music is black music from 65 to 75.
Okay.
Anything within that period is like I'll absorb almost any of it. And this is something I don't know. It fits in that wheelhouse. I'm expecting it's going to be funky, and a lot of the gospel funk that I heard from this period is simply amazing. It's simply amazing. So yeah, man, I welcome more. Bring that shit on. Give me Sons
Nice.
of Truth. That's my
Sons
next
of
pick.
Truth. All right. I went with something for like in your body chart. This to me is like mostly head, maybe getting a little down to heart, but Towns Van Zandt, Rearview Mirror.
Yeah, definitely.
To me, like Towns records, and I mean the one I really rep is the self-titled, but it's like the best chill music to work to. And I was psyched because Rearview Mirror has never been pressed to vinyl before.
Oh,
So
I know.
I don't actually know this record all that well. Haven't listened to it much digitally, but I'm really excited to have this as part of collecting some Towns records and having this for the first time pressed on vinyl.
Well, look, this was definitely one of the ones that it hurt for me to put behind, but I had to. It's never been released before. It's got alternate takes of some classic stuff. I think Pancho and Lefty is there, but alternate. And supposedly, I mean, from the press that I read, the alternate takes of this Towns record are fairly different from the originals. And one of the cinchers for me is it's out on Fat Possum Records. Fat Possum Records just never does it wrong. Okay, and you know, they do the R.L. Burnside, which you guys put out a couple of records and a whole lot of others. And the deal is that I know that when I buy a Fat Possum record, I know the kind of blues I'm going to get, and I know that it's going to be pressed properly. It's not going to be big on packaging. It's not Spartan. The packaging is nice, but it doesn't cost a lot. So it's an affordable thrill put together in a nice package. I totally get why you picked it up.
A pretty big artist and never been pressed before. I think it's like $20.
Yeah.
It's like a killer deal.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is a record you should absolutely throw in your cart.
And, you know, what can you get anymore for under $20? Fat Possum is one of those. And, yeah, kudos. That one hurt. I wonder if Waiting Around to Die is on that. Have you ever seen the documentary? What was it called? Heart-Worn Highways. I think it was called Heart-Worn Highways, about the country music. And there's just one scene where, you know, they were interviewing Townes Van Zandt before he passed away, and he's playing a live version of Waiting Around to Die. And one of his friends was just this old black man, you know, older than him. And at one point they just zoom into the guy, and he's just fucking flabbergasted. He starts crying. And I don't remember the name of the movie. I don't remember the other artists. I don't remember what else he played. The only thing I remember is I remember very clearly Townes Van Zandt playing on a porch, I believe, or something like this, Waiting Around to Die, and just making this black man older than he was cry with his folk song. And he's magic. He was magic. He was magic.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I get that pick. I would have taken that immediately too. Kudos, man.
Are we into box sets? We decided this.
Oh, I got another one.
You got one more. Okay.
I do have one more. And this one more I can directly attribute to you as well. You have in your members only shop, or in like your special pressings, a copy of Saint Vincent's self-titled record, right? Okay. Yep. I don't know anything about that record. I don't know if it's the first, last. I know nothing about Saint Vincent. The entirety of my knowledge of Saint Vincent was last month's record of the month. I am so enamored by that record that I immediately understood that I necessarily have to pick up everything by this woman. And it is because I have to pick up everything by this woman that I don't want to listen to a single fucking track until I get it on vinyl. It's got to be the first time when I drop the needle on some new St. Vincent, you understand? My fucking nipples must emanate fucking explosions, because that's how good she is. And I need this.
I can't wait to sit down and talk to you and compare self-titled to her release from this year, Mass Seduction. They are wildly different.
I'm comfortable with that.
For you to get this. Yeah,
I'm really comfortable. I see that this is a woman, from just the entire package. I can see that everything, there's a difference between micromanaging and just being able to use aesthetics, understand aesthetics, and just bring it together. And she did the vinyl package perfectly. The music went well with the art, went well with the imagery, went well with everything. And when you see, you don't need more than one record. When you see that level of detail in an offering, dude, that's what she does. You know that that's the level for the other stuff. So it's like, I don't care what she has to say. Right away on one record, I put her in a category where I want to hear everything she has to say. Tom Waits, same kind of deal.
Yep. Oh, I'm excited for you to get that record. You're going to dig it.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah.
So now we're into box sets. Well, you picked Tom York also. Do you have any stories, or are we going to box sets?
No real stories. I mean, Radiohead fan lifelong, it's probably, I don't have a whole lot of things in my collection where have tried to be like a completist, but if there was any band that I was coming close, it's probably in Radiohead stuff.
Okay.
I have a lot of the Radiohead catalog and B-sides, and I really like Tom York's Eraser that he did. I think was the first album of his like solo stuff, and I don't have a ton of exposure on Tomorrow's Modern Boxes. That's getting reissued here.
Okay.
It's first time reissue, so I'm psyched to be able to pick it up. It's really sparse, a lot like Eraser. I mean, there's not the you got to really like kind of, to me it's great smoking weed music. It's very chill, and like the layers start to present themselves the more you like let your head get into it. So I'm looking forward to it without having a ton of exposure to it.
I think we've had this conversation, and I remember your reaction, but I don't know if you remember.
I don't think you should say this. I think people are gonna
I
riot.
don't give a fuck. You know that, dude. You can't know it all, but I've never heard Radiohead, man. I don't know OK Computer. I think there's one song called Karma Police. Karma Police. That's as far as I know. That's like my knowledge of Radiohead.
I mean, it makes me want to just end I've thought about just hitting the like disconnect button.
You can't know everything, yeah, but you can't fake it. What am I supposed to, it's,
I know.
You don't know. Think about all the records. There are so many records that are necessary that we don't know yet.
Tons and tons.
We talk about do you guys still have Sister Rosetta Tharpe in your store?
Yeah, just inducted to
the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So people all of a sudden, have you noticed? I don't know if you have. I have. Have you noticed how many articles about Sister Rosetta Tharpe are beginning to come out now?
Yeah, now all of a sudden she's everybody's flavor this month.
She's the flavor of the month. It's like, what are you fucking kidding me? It's like some of the blues guys said, you want to learn how to play the fucking guitar? Listen to her. And I'm telling you, it's not because she's a great, it's just, it's pure blues. It's just, it's raw. One of those. Box sets. Let me set it up a little. You're going to go first. What's fun about the box set section is that me and Matt, Hessler picked one and I picked the other. And what fell off the list was each other's box set. So I'll let him start with his and tell you why he picked it over what I picked. And then I'll fucking destroy his argument. I promise I will. I will hurt him.
There was reasons on both sides. I mean, this was a tough call, but I went with the Fela Kuti box set curated by Erykah Badu.
Great choice.
I mean, obviously all the Fela stuff is amazing, but I like the idea of like the secondary curator. There's been a few in this series.
4.
I don't own any of them, but they all get really great acclaim, and you get this just different perspective on how to compile like his massive catalog. So I think it's awesome, and it's a box that I'm totally dying to have, and will I have probably, I don't know, only like 3 Fela Kuti records, and I have a feeling all I'll play from here on out is this box set.
Well, you chose well. There's no bad Fela material. It's all good. And if you read the liner notes, Erykah pretty much says this music sounds best if you smoke a massive blunt while you play it. So she puts that right in the label. Look,
you got to follow instructions, right? Like you didn't really have a choice.
Hey, listen, you're gonna argue with you're gonna argue with Badu. I don't argue with Badu. She knows more than I do. You understand?
Hell yeah.
But no, look, number one, okay, it's released by Knitting Factory. These are reissued. There have been box sets, Fela box sets that have been released, but this stuff has all been remastered. It sounds great. There were 4 volumes. I have the first one that was by Questlove. Questlove did the first one. The second one was Ginger Baker, the drummer of Cream, because Ginger Baker did an album with Fela in the mid-70s, so that was on it, and they did a box set curated by Ginger Baker of Cream. The third one was Brian Eno.
Ooh.
Yeah, dude. Nice. Brian Eno curated the 3rd box. This is the 4th box by Badu, and you will be blown away. You'll be blown away. It's going to be amazing. The first one is fucking bonkers.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But
What did you choose that you liked even better than that?
um anybody that knows me would understand the pick immediately, and I've put it up on the screen. But the minute my heart beats jazz. I like everything because I think that music can accompany every mood, every feeling, and the reason there's no such thing as too many records is because there's no such thing as too many emotions. So Monk Monk created a language. Monk created a language. Monk did what nobody ever has done before, and he's lionized for bringing jazz forward and giving me a part of my heartbeat. So there are some artists that I am completist with. The one that the artist I'm a real completist for is Charles Mingus. And that's a record I left behind, Live at the Bohemia, because I didn't know who pressed it. But you guys have Charles Mingus Live at the Bohemia in your store. I left that there because I wasn't sure about the pressing. But when it came to this Monk box, I was 100% sure of the box set because these are the Riverside recordings. So a couple of years ago, they released Miles Davis, the same type of set. They released Miles Davis all of the original 10-inch records in box sets. There were 2 volumes of the box set, and they were all original album jackets and the authentic kind of like 10-inch, right? And they fit into those 2 box sets. This is exactly the concept behind this. It's the Riverside stuff, and it's his complete Riverside recordings. And it's all on the original 10 inches like they were originally sold, compiled in a box. So in other words, if you're a jazz guy, it hits. If you're a guy who likes box set porn, it hits. If you're a completist, it hits. And you're getting legitimately some of Monk's just fuck the stuff on not the stuff on Impulse, but the stuff on Riverside. It's just these guys were still young and fucking sparkling. Okay, so it's not like they hadn't really found their way completely in terms of what they would be defined by, but you can hear that there's fucking genius there. There's genius there. And I'm very familiar with this, with most of the stuff there. And I've spent my life trying to collect all of it. And that was exactly the case with the Miles ones. And the reason I bought the Miles ones is because it would have taken me forever to buy every 10-inch and find them. These 2 box sets, I bought them and it was all there. It was a complete set. This is Thelonious Monk during the Riverside years, during the 50s. It's a complete set. I have it all right there. Sorry, Fela. I already have 3 Fela records and 1 box set.
Yeah.
I gotta go with Monk, man. I gotta go with Monk.
I also oddly like a 10-inch box set. I think they're just kind of funky. I never know where to store them, but I think they're kind of cool.
Nah, they fit in an expanded shelf. It's just you have a shelf specifically for that. I have mine. I don't know if you see. Yeah, you see it. It's kind of like on this side, but there's a segment just all for the 10-inch records. They're awesome.
They're a show off.
No. I love records, dude. There's nothing. You know how pathetic you have to be to listen to all this stuff? I'm a shut-in, dude. Mm-hmm. I hate society, remember?
Maybe that's what I meant. I said show off. I meant shut in.
There we go.
You're a shut in.
There we go. So I think we picked them all, didn't we?
We did. I think we did a hell of a job.
That was fun, man. That was fun.
Yeah.
And we got another one, right? So next week, next Friday, same time, same place. Did you remember that one? You did, right?
I do.
Next week's going to be another great show between me and Matt. What we're going to do is the best of VMP episodes. So we're going to do a 2-parter. It was supposed to be 1 part, and then Matt said something that made sense. What we'll do is we'll each submit our top 12, right? So VMP, Vinyl Me Please, release a feature album every month. We're going to rank those according to our personal taste and compare our top 12. That'll be one. And then Hessler decided another one, which I thought was a fantastic idea. And we would pick the best of the Vinyl Me Please exclusive pressings because they do so many exclusive pressings. Which ones, we're going to talk about which ones hit, which ones missed the mark or whatever,
Sure.
I'm sure you got your picks.
I'm working on it. I got to do some prioritization. There's a lot in there.
Yeah, you guys, it's safe to say that you released more exclusive stuff than ever before, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think God, it has to be upwards of, like, not counting the record of the month stuff. It's got to be upwards of 60 other exclusive pressings
Yeah,
that we
we got
did
a lot
this
to
year.
pick from.
So
Definitely.
there's a lot there, and we really try to make sure it's stuff all over the board, different genres, decades. So it's tough to compare. You got some apples and some oranges that you're trying to put in a list, but that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, but just the thing is, it comes back to the age-old question of how do you store your records? How do you file your records? Presenting a theme just allows us another way to talk about music. So the fact that you guys put, your name behind 60 other records, it just provides us with a special pool. But ultimately, what are we doing? We're nerding out on records, man. This is about the music.
Heck yeah.
Dude, you rule, man. And I'm already looking forward to the next one. Seriously, that was fun. Hope you
Me
like.
too. This was great. I look forward to it every time. I mean, it's crazy busy around here, and this is a chance for me to just come hang out for an hour and talk about music. So I always learn something, and I dig it.
Wicked Hessler. So say sayonara. It's time to go, man.